When I came down, empty on all guns, she was slumped against a bulkhead, staring at me with all her tiny eyes. Ether leaked out of her like smoke. The knight hadn't died easily. Downslope, the last wizard moved like fire behind another line of thrall. I looked at her and wondered how many innocent human lives she'd ended on those broken blades. She did the strangest thing then. Took the last shot pistol from her bandolier and threw it between us, as if to offer it. When I went to pick it up, she tried to knife me, but she was slow, and I broke her arms and opened her throat. When I broke her arms and opened her throat, she didn't seem surprised. To this day, I wonder if she hated me, or wanted to make me kill her, or just felt she should spare me the choice. I did kill a few thralls with that pistol. Alright, we're just about 30 pages from the end of the book at this point. We're getting there. And now, we're getting to talk about Mizrax. Which, I'm gonna have a quick drink first. I'm about to hydrate everyone. The Vandal stoops as he exits the galliot. All of his arms are bound behind his back, so he cannot shield his eyes from the bright sun. A breeze stirs his cloak. There is a cliff behind him and lush gardens ahead. His jailer would not grant him the honor of a quick death, so she must intend to torture him. She thinks he will yield like the flesh lovers from House Judgment. She is wrong. Whatever indignities she can muster are nothing compared to what he deserves. With his chin held high, he imagines chucking off his armor and laying all four of his arms in his captain's hands. His captain is his mother, and she will not duck him with a scythe. She will twist and tear his arms from his body like she is shucking a fine fat crab for dinner, and she will be glad of the slow, sick cracks and crunches of his bones. He will be glad of the shame. Let him go limbless for the rest of his wasted life. Let the ether thirst shrivel him up like a Yavisri fig. What do you think? His jailer asks in a language he cannot understand. She steps up beside him and claps her hand on his shoulder. He flinches. She's nearly as tall as he is, and for a creature with no claws, her grip is strong and sure. Together they contemplate the garden. It's a bit much for my taste, she admits, as he sneaks a furtive look at her. Her bow is unstrung. There is only one arrow in her quiver. She is stupid. He whirls, trips her, and springs for the cliffs. She swears, recovers, and lunges after him. As he pitches himself off the edge, he thinks of his mother's shame, and prays that she forgets him. Better that she never had a son than a weakling so easily captured by the enemy. It is his bad luck that she catches his foot with one hand. His helmet slams into the rocky cliffside. A piece of his rebreather cracks off and disappears into the mist far below. He flails, but he cannot drag her down with him. Somehow she holds him like a fish. As soon as she has him on solid ground, she binds his ankles with the string of her bow. "All right," she says, catching her breath. "All right." She chuckles and pats his shoulders fondly, and then pulls him upright like a sack of psychics. She takes a step back, brushing off her hands against the seat of her trousers. He glowers, the surliest psychic sack this side of the great machine, hating her horrible square of teeth and her blunt stubby fingers. "Let's try this again, shall we?" Drawing two fractal knives from sheaths on her thighs, she makes a perfect Irelis bow before him. Thunderstruck, he sits up straight, stares. "That good?" she asks and tries again. Furious confusion takes him. Some kind of trick. Blasphemous mockery. Ears Solvex, he rumbles. She shakes her head. Nama. Sheathing one of her knives, she holds out her hand with her fingers spread in supplication. He draws his chin towards his throat with his fresh betrayal, narrowing his secondary eyes. It speaks. Slowly, without breaking eye contact, she lays her other knife on the ground between them. The blade points towards her boots. He watches her every movement. How many secrets have the flesh lovers betrayed? This creature can make peace like a cringing drake before his kill. She taps 2 fingers against her curse. Sieur, she says slowly, then points at him. Honor-bound even as he simmers in scandal, he replies, Mizrax. Velasque. Siurex. Mithrax, she repeats, then grins. Velasque, Mithrax. And welcome. Let's have a look about, shall we? That was when Sieur Ido captured Mithrax. Okay, next we have a bit of lore about some of the weapons. I'm just gonna skip over that real quick because I mean I'm guessing Dan, Kitty, Morgan, you guys are probably like kind of chilling after Takiri is gonna go make me food. Me hungry. Sounds good, Morgan. I'm about like 20 pages or so away from finishing this. It's been taking a longer time than I thought, so. But yeah, we'll be able to start Enshrouded soon. As we start Chapter 9, called Succession. Varix the Loyal remembers an ancient time and an ancient name. The House of Judgment, when grudges and status fights were worked out in a safe place. When the berserk and the vengeance crazed were kept somewhere harmless, and there were fewer rivals to plot around. The old fallen ways align perfectly with the Queen's agenda. With the House of Wolves in disarray, the Queen needs muscle in the reef. Guardians go where the treasure and the glory are, and an arena of champions is a wonderful place to earn both. Guardians in the Reef deter threats to the Queen and give the Awoken a chance to learn about their power and subvert their loyalty to Traveler. And if, as the Queen worries, the Nine are scheming against her, then she needs a good excuse to clear out some of the most dangerous prizes in the Prison of Elders. And the Prison of Elders is full of dangerous prizes. The Awoken have captured titanically dangerous specimens from everywhere in the inner solar system. These monstrous champions want to smash Guardian Bone and Guardian Alloy. And given the chance, they'll kill Guardians, rend their ghosts, and snuff them out forever. Walk into the arena with a fire team you trust. And beware. The agents of the Nine are active in the Reef, and their curiosity is as limited as it is inscrutable. Risk death, win glory, and signs of Her Majesty's favor, but always remember that you are being watched and tested. Now then, we get to a part called Splinter of Bones. Here's the Splinter of Bone. Deep in the heart of the Prison of Elders, Varix of House Judgment clutched Splinter of Bone as he watched the solar system burn. The facility had been outfitted over the years with massive sensor grids slaved to arrays spread across the reef. They gave him a detailed analysis of the Red Legion's fury. The light from the monitors was the only illumination in the room as his arms flew across the controls. Relaying warnings to Petra and the Awoken, he could already see the remainders of the Awoken fleet disappearing off his scope, going into hiding. Relaying warnings to the city, though he could see he was far too late, their comms were gone. There was no one left to listen. Relaying warnings to his people. With the end of their houses, there were so few who would listen. But if he could save even a handful. While his hands worked, his eyes remained fixed on the screens, watching death, destruction, and horror. In his role working with the Guardians of the City, he'd pored over the distress signal from the Dentalian Exodus 6. Source Green Raven had sent bursts of analysis to the tower at least a dozen times since the days of the Taken War, but he'd never expected numbers of this magnitude. With the system of Velocity offline, he had no problem dialing sensors over the wall. He'd been able to see with clarity the home of humanity with a resolution where he could make out parks and lakes and marketplaces. These same sensors let him watch, grinding the bone in his mechanical fist, as people died, as the great machine was yoked, as the Guardians fell. Scrambling, he alerted the crows, but something went wrong. The network had fallen dark, each and every crow offline. All, that is, save for one. Through a garbled image he saw a hand, an awoken hand, but it almost immediately fell to static. He wanted to care. He wanted to feel something for them. What dominated his thoughts, though, what made a ticking noise emanate deep in his voice synth, was the growing fear that the Queen's plan has failed. He sat back in his chair, thinking. The prison of elders orbited far enough away from the core awakened outposts, and thus far enough away from the Cabal's phalanx, that it might come out of this unscathed. Nonetheless, he initiated lockdown procedures, prepared for the worst. A calm ping. Confirmation. Petra Venge and the limited forces at her command evacuated what settlements they could, and disappeared into the nooks and crannies of the reef. She would be unable to send help to the prison. First House Judgment, then House Wolf, then Kel Marasov. Now he could feel the rest of his adopted people slipping away from him. With one of his mechanical arms, he crushed a splinter of bone to dust. The next part is called Less is More. Varix watched Petra's corsairs march their latest prize into the cell block, a gaggle of ether-starved dregs bearing the mark of the scorned barons. Nearby, Petra drummed her fingers along the hilt of her knife. Her eyes glinted with envy. She held onto this prison as if it was the last thing she could control. Perhaps it was. Between the scattered remnants of the Red Legion and the scorned barons running rampant through the reef, the Awoken had little left to call their own. Varix sighed. Only a true Kel understood that survival was not a game of waiting, and Petra Venge, for all her military prowess, was no Kel. In a world without Kels, Drag's strength will breed nothing but chaos, Varix whispered to himself, the old Rain proverb, wishing for the return of the decisive days of his queen, his Kel. What did you say? Petra asked without looking at him. Chaos, he replied. These dregs breed chaos. Petra scoffed. They're fallen, and where there's fallen, there will inevitably be guardians. She turned on her heel and walked away. I leave you to do your judgment, Varix. Locate the hole in which these scorned barons cower. She stopped, turned back to him. Might want to get up your rations. You're looking a bit gaunt. She smiled, patted him on the back, and continued on her way. He watched her go. If his anatomy allowed for it, he would have smiled in kind. Hers was a heart always in the right place, even if the outcome of her decision was less than ideal. She did not, however, fully appreciate the threat these scorned barons posed. He had tried to warn her when they were just 7 dregs and a heretical archon. Now their terror was spreading throughout the rift, with more and more fallen answering the baron's anarchistic call. She was right about one thing, though. He could stand to increase his intake. The thought of it made Varix thirsty for the flow. Like all of his kind since the appearance of the Red Legion, he had been forced to ration his intake. He never felt so weak, so close to death. But he would survive, as he always had. Varix knew the time would inevitably come when he would have survived on his own. Next is roll call. After the Taken War, the scorned barons banded together in a time of weakness to become strong, to prey on anyone and anything that practiced the old Elixni ways. They began with the one thing their people needed to survive: ether. In a way, the barons had become heads of a new house, priests in their own rights, and arbiters of their own trials. The terror they unleashed had almost grown as powerful as any Kel. These heathens were not Elixni. They were more fallen than any of their brethren. They were everything judgment has sought to purge before the whirlwind. And now they sat rotting deep in the prison of elders. Cade and his six had done good by their word. Varric's staff tapped lightly on the floor plates, and chuckling noises emanated from his throat. He hobbled past their cells as the servitors hummed to life. Feeding time. He saw hatred in every cell he passed. Bathed in the light of flowing ether, their eyes carved at his flesh, saw him docked 1,000 times more. Yavix, the rider, the untamed. She and her crew spread terror and disease with their noxious pikes. Elicris, the machinist. She used stolen Cabal telemetry and gravity traps to sabotage vessels, relieve them of their cargo, and haul the hulks back to their own shipyard chop shops. Pyra the Blind, the ghost of Hellwise Canyon, who haunted the Baron's territory with phantom decoys and ended all trespassers from the shadows. Rexus Van, the Godslayer, the Hangman. He had secreted away the ether stores of his victims and driven the barons and their followers into a frenzy with that tainted feast. Araxes the Wit, the traitor, the trickster, a mastermind, a liar, thief and backstabber. Canix Two Fingers, the mad bomber. The dangers of the reef had multiplied 100-fold with his minds hidden in every rock and dusty corner of the belt. And the most disgusting of them all, Hyrax the Mindbender, this one found in the hive a way to infect the minds of the Elixni. Only one was missing. Fikrul the Heretic, the Fanatic, one Varix dared to call a friend back when the Archon tended to Calyx Prime. Before his betrayal, he hoped the Fanatic was dead. Cade assured that he was. And what was Cade Six if not reliable? Laughing, burbling to himself, Varix shut off the lights in the hallway, and the barons were plunged once again into darkness. Next is part called Job Undone, which I'm gonna take a fucking drink first. In the Prison of Elders security hub, Varix brooded. When the great machine woke, he had been sure he felt something deep within him stir. He had hoped it would give him answers, powers, anything. All it did was remind him how far he had fallen. He slammed a fist on his console, watching the denizens of the prison claw at their cell walls. No, not nothing. Worse than nothing. No, now he had doubt. His goal had always been a simple one. The banner of House Judgment, the calling to which he had been born, keep his people together. With the light now streaming across the system and nothing to show for it, no Queen, no Eris or Osiris, and no sign the great machine remembered the Elixni, what was there to look forward to? Base survival? One day after the other, living just because he still drew breath. And where was the Drake's strength in that? What was the Varix? Petra burst through the comm. A Legion Harvester has been intercepted at bearing 189. Captured ships are inbound. Survivors for the arena. Prepare to receive. Petra Avenge was all that was left for him here. And despite himself, he nodded at the sound of her voice. He had but one ally left after all. He keyed the comms. Yes, yes, yes. Bay 41. Bring them in. We'll meet team. We'll make room for new guests. His vocal synth blurbled, needing tuning. Copy that. She was gone. He picked up his staff from where he'd leaned against the wall and began the long walk to the bay, mulling his options, his information, his secrets. Secrets had protected the House of Judgment. The more knowledge one could obfuscate, the more significant one became. Secrets bred possibility. Secrets bred sway. But judgment, true judgment, required hierarchy. And Elixni hierarchy died with the falling of the houses. The Guardians had picked them apart, Kel by Kel, prime by prime. Now there was all but nothing left of his culture. Only pirates and scavengers, and lone wolves like the days before the Edge Wars. No trust, no honor, no way to be necessary. Yet one final hope among the Elixni still thrived. Krask, Kel of Kings. The kings understood judgment, for together they ended the Edge Wars in their people's golden age. Krask, his last hope to see his dreams of a united Elixni made manifest. He must make contact. And so he hired a bounty hunter named Grox to find Krask, and remind them of their need for one another. Grox is emblematic of all that Varix despises in his people. Gluttonous, proud, and in it only for himself. When they spoke, Grox made Varix pay with a litany of insults. Varix the slip, Varix the beggar, Varix the kill maker. But it was all for show. Grox would work, and it came for a mere 4 bales of etheric helix, and a promise to keep him free of the prison of elders. The deal struck, Grox burst into hysterical laughter. Ah, consider job done, slip. Grox spoke in a low form of Elixni, the only reason Varix employed him. You have grown desperate with your Kel gone. Have you not heard? Varix sighed. King Kel is gone, Kelmaker. Dead at the hands of that insane Archon, Fickrul, and some awoken vagabond he calls father. What remains of the kings hurtles now in the dead zones of Earth, under the shadow of the great machine's shard. I expect my 4 bales in Varix killed the feed. The last link in the great Elixni chain was broken. If there were any who called themselves Kel out there, they would not know Varix. Judgment or the laws that governed the houses. The scattered children of the whirlwind were dead. But Fickrul survived Cade and his 6. Grox was a lot of things, but he was not a liar. If Fickrul was alive and strong enough to kill Krask, and who was this awoken vagabond of which Grox spoke? His mind reeled. So long as Fickrul lived, the reef was not safe. He scrambled through his comms channels, searching for the right connection. Master Cade, Varix requests to meet you regarding your deal with Petra. A job undone. Next we have some kind of luck with Varix and a bit of Cade as well. Varix hid beneath a bannerless cloak as he descended into the spider's lair. To wear the judgment sigil in the tangled shore would be to invite death. Even with the spider's blessing to pass, he would have been picked clean and docked 2 times over. The hedonistic sounds of Spider's Palace scraped against him. Shouts of victory and defeat reminded Varix of the worst of the Elixni. Hey Ram, thank you for the raid! His people's inherent need for superiority reduced to gambling for trinkets and gems. Varix searched the crowd, hunched down low, just another vandal. In the corner, the unmistakable crowd that surrounded the Hunter Vanguard when he was outside the city. He worked his way through the onlookers to take a position alongside Cade. The hunter noticed him, he was sure, but said nothing. Varix, for his part, was silent, watched as he lost a few thousand glimmer and a sidearm to one of Spider's bodyguards. Cade spun a knife in his right hand and sighed dramatically. If we're going to talk, you're going to buy me a drink. They found a quiet place at the end of the room. Cade settled back in the booth, waiting. You do great service to Reeve, yes? Varix worked hard to keep his very recognizable voice down. It would be a shame for his vocal synth to malfunction and blare out across the room now. Capture barons, criminals, for Awoken, for Petra. Cade took a belt and set the glass down on the table, empty. Something hard around his eyes. Amazing how expressive Exos could be. Get to the point, Varix. Thikrul, the last scorned baron. He lives. Cade's horn cut an arc through the air as he shook his head, twice definitive. Trust me, he's dead. Put a hot one right through here. He poked Varys right in the center of his chest. Seen on Earth, I have knowledge. I have information. You know Elixni have ways. Like Mithrax, like Tanix. The warden realized his error as soon as the name was out of his mouth. Don't you ever mention the name Tanix around me. Got it? Not unless you want to lose your last 2 real arms. We're done. Get your bad luck. The hunter stood, made to leave. Varix reached out and grabbed the Vanguard by the arm with one of his mechanic hands. I am sorry. I spoke poorly. Please, listen. Cade shrugged off the arm and stood, towering over the fallen for once. Varix stood straighter in the booth. Take me to Zavala. The Titan Vanguard's name was a punctuated, flowing stutter in his voice. I have information. He will like what I say. You for bringing me to him. Kid blinked. You want me to take you to the city? No way, Bug. Not in a million. With a thud, Varix dropped the hand cannon he'd been hiding in his cloak on the table. A dull brown bristles out the top. Ether-thick trigger and muzzle assembly. Cade's eyebrows went up in surprise. A gift of trust. Memento of the Reeve. Upgraded, yes. Very deadly. The hunter of Vanguard tried to hide his excitement. Is that the last one? I haven't seen one of those in one of the last. Not many left. Varg's voice was even calm. Cade snatched the weapon from the table, checked the sights, spun it in his hand for a moment, feeling the weight. Grunted, satisfied, nodded. Like I said, bad luck. Come on, you can ride with me.